Well, there appears to be a mixture of views on how Thrawn was portrayed in the Ahsoka show. Shocker, right? Star Wars fans having differing opinions?
I don't believe it!
Well, I'm going to talk about it. I will note that these different opinions seem to focus on how the character was written, and not the performance of Lars Mikkelsen, who is rightly receiving almost universal praise. Let's be honest, before we saw him in Rebels, we all had our own idea of what Thrawn sounded like, not counting his appearances in video games. But once we heard Lars, we knew that was the voice of Thrawn. Thankfully, this exceptional performance continued into live action, and it is why so many fans cannot wait to see him again. Where there is criticism, it lies in how Thrawn behaved throughout the show. This criticism seems to focus on two aspects. First, that the actions we saw him take were a wholesale departure from his character, and as such, they just didn't make any sense. Second, the show barely let us see what Thrawn was capable of. This is not necessarily an issue for those of us who watched Rebels or have read the Timothy Zahn novels, but it is a problem for the casual viewer whose first introduction to this character was in Ahsoka. They have had a large amount of hype built up, both in and out of universe, and to not see him do much could be seen as a bit of a letdown. Now, this is all what the critics of the show are saying. However, I'm going to be honest, I don't share their opinion. In my view, how Thrawn acted in the Ahsoka show makes perfect sense. Now, before I go any further, I do need to establish something. While I love the original Heir to the Empire trilogy, remember, as much as we may want it to be, it's not canon. Thrawn's background and behavior from those novels should not be used to justify criticism of his character in canon. They are two different people. This means that we should only be discussing canon Thrawn when deciding if his behavior in Ahsoka is consistent with what we know. Now, I will also say this. I am not actually suggesting that Thrawn's behavior is not different from the character that we know. Rather, I think that this behavior change makes sense in the story. The Thrawn that we are seeing is not the man who was working to climb the ranks of the Empire. He was not the man who had large numbers of resources at his command as a Grand Admiral. What we are seeing is a man who has been stuck in exile for years, with nothing but the thought of escape and the memory of his greatest defeat. And let's not forget, this defeat did not happen because of some superior strategy from his opponents. It happened because of the damn Star Whales. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Thrawn took great pleasure in giving the order to destroy any Star Whale that came close to Peridia. This leads right to my next point, Thrawn being more emotional than we usually see him. In Ahsoka, we see this in several moments. We see it when he's talking with Sabine about her risking the fate of her galaxy. We see the concern he displays when he learns that Ahsoka was Anakin Skywalker's Padawan. We see the anger on his face when Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine make it through his bombardment. And we see his pride when he taunts Ahsoka about her master. While these displays of emotion seem like a lot, especially given that they happened in fairly quick succession as far as the story goes, remember that we have seen a more emotional side of Thrawn in canon before. In Rebels, we see him assault and growl at one of his subordinates who disrespects Art. We see him taunt Hera by telling her that he would not be accepting her surrender and that he wanted the credit for defeating her. We see him absolutely livid when Moff Price endangered the TIE Defender program, and we see him panic when he realizes that he is losing at the Battle of Lothal. My point in all of this, canon Thrawn has an emotional side, especially when he's pushed to his limits. Now, how this compares to him in Legends? Well, that's a conversation for another video. Moving on to Thrawn's strategic skills, I would say that this is the largest criticism of his character in Ahsoka. Essentially, what his entire goal was for the whole show was to escape Peridia and get back to his galaxy. It seems like people wanted to see him do more, and I understand that, but I have to ask, logically, what else should he have been doing? Sure, he could have devoted all of his limited, and I'm going to stress this again, limited resources to defeating Ahsoka. To do that would have surely compromised his ability to leave. Even when he was doing all he could to delay our heroes, they still came very close to stopping him. Thrawn still carries the memories of how strong a single Jedi can be, and he knows that they can pull victory out of nowhere. Keeping his encounters with them to a minimum ensures that the odds of this happening are low. And don't forget, even with all of his efforts, Ezra still made it on board the Chimera so he could hitch a ride home. One thing I've seen people mentioning is that they would have liked to see some type of announcement to the New Republic that Thrawn had returned, either by him broadcasting it or by some kind of battle. He could have encountered New Republic ships when he returned and showed off his strategic abilities by defeating them with inferior technology. While I have no doubt that Thrawn would have been capable of this, remember, his current goal is to bring about the return of the Empire. He needs time to consolidate his resources, coordinate with other Imperials, and plan a full-scale invasion. If he can keep his return a secret, accomplishing all of this will be far more likely. Now, of course, because Ezra snuck back with him, the New Republic is going to find out that he's back. But from Thrawn's perspective, he doesn't know that. Unless, of course, Filoni is still planning on having an Ezra turn to the dark side twist, but at this point, I think that's unlikely. If they were going to do it, I think it would have been revealed in the Ahsoka show. So let me know, do you think that Thrawn's actions in the Ahsoka show made sense? Did you want to see more? Or did you think that it was just completely off base? Put your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future content. With all that said, have a great rest of your day.